Okay, so today that's, our focus won't be entirely on making sure we're nose breathing, but it is but we are going to do a lot of breath work today. So make sure you have your Coregeous ball, or your MR ball, your Pilates ball, whatever you want to call it, and have it not super full. So like maybe half full. Um, okay, so breathing through your nose. When you breathe through your sinuses have so many swirls and chambers in there, so there's a lot of surface area for the breath to cascade upon. And along the channels of the sinuses, we have cilia, like little hairs that, not hairs, but little finger-like projections that capture debris that's in the air. So it's purifies our breath going down into our lungs. And then we also have, it warms the breath going down into our lungs. So it's a nice, good temperature for us to receive. And probably most importantly, your sinuses bathe your breath in nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is a bronchodilator and it's a vasodilator, and it's a purifier. So when the air, through all this preparation, when we breathe through our nose, by the time it gets down into our lungs, there's a lot of really good things that are happening. It's clean air, it's warm air, and the bronchodilation effect of the nitric acid makes it so that we have this really increased capacity to take that oxygenation into our tissues. So very good to learn how to nose breathe instead of mouth breathe. So if that gives you any encouragement of why to try mouth tape periodically or learn how to breathe through a straw, things like that, that we will do in the next coming classes. It's just very helpful. So always you can just shut your mouth. So if you're practicing nose breathing, just consciously try to keep your mouth closed as much as you can during your practice, during your day, in whatever way that you can. And of course, we have this beautiful capacity to breathe through our mouth when we need it, when we're talking, when we are congested, when we need, just a different capacity for volume. So it's very, very good to have both ways. But ultimately, if we're not talking, if we're not needing to, we should be breathing through our nose as much as possible. So try to keep your mouth closed through the practice today. So that's just, the basics, but the work we're going to do today is really going to be about the diaphragm. So, if you think about the diaphragm, this dome-like structure in your body that moves from front to back, side to side, it's a whole dome at the base of your lungs. And when we inhale, it flattens and broadens. And when we exhale, it draws in and up to create that dome. And we want that natural movement to be happening every time we inhale and exhale. And the rest of our body really is working in concert with this. So our pelvic floor should do the same thing. It should drop down and wide on the inhale and come together and knit up on the exhale to give lots of space for the lung capacity to expand. It's like pressure gradients in the body. And if we have good mobility of our pelvic bones over our femur bones, and we can do a lot of anterior and posterior tilting and rotating, then it allows for a lot of mobility of our pelvic floor. And it also allows a lot of mobility of our rib cage and our diaphragm. So if you think about it, when you anterior tilt the pelvis, we have a lot of room in the front of the body. And when we posterior tilt the pelvis, we kind of close off the space in the front of our abdomen. So working with tilting the pelvis, working with moving the pelvic floor, working with moving the rib cage, all these things can be really good to help us allow for our diaphragm to just live in its natural space of movement. And then of course there, it just transects the whole body. Rib cage movement, the hamstrings even can impact the way our pelvis can move. So ultimately getting our whole body open, flexible, pliable, mobile is going to help our breath. The more we stiffen our joints, our posture, our fascia, the less mobile our breathing will be. And it just impacts us on so many levels. So That's what we're going to work with today, is a little bit of diaphragmatic movement. So hopefully just, kind of reminding you of the why of these things will inspire you to make sure that you're breathing well. All right, so let's come to sit up straight and tall. And maybe, just take a moment to cat-cow your body a little bit, a little arching, a little rounding, a little kind of smushing the collarbones and expanding the collarbones, just kind of finding that subtlety of a little bit of movement in your torso. Okay. And let's not forget these scalenes up in our neck, which are accessory muscles of breathing. So let's take a moment to stretch our chin up and our head down. And we'll stick with just this flexion extension vibe for the moment. So roll the shoulders back, lift your chin, and then roll your shoulders forward, tuck your chin, feel that full cat-cow from your head to your tail. And then let's go ahead and rest here for a moment, and we'll do just a little bit of lateral bending. I'm going to move back so you can see me a little bit more. Hand on the ground or on a block, and we'll stretch up and over to one side. And hand up and over to the other side. And a little bit of more fluid movement. So, kind of going back and forth a few times. So you're just waking up that shoulder movement and rib cage movement laterally. And then finding neutral again, and we'll twist. So you can bring one hand to the opposite knee, twisting to the side, remembering that our waking up the spinal movements of flexion, extension, lateral bending, and rotation are really important for the lubrication of our breath. Okay, one more time each side. How's your breathing here? And then pause for a moment and just notice if you feel a little different than when you first sat down. Let's take a little bit of a baseline of what our breathing is doing. So close your mouth, breathe through your nose if you can. Of course, if you're congested, you can breathe through your mouth. Maybe change the cross of your legs just to give your body something, a little different position. And not worrying too much about what we're doing with the breath, but just observing. Try to just catch a little bit of a glimpse of what your breathing naturally is looking like this morning. Right, and when you feel ready, bring your hands to your heart and let's offer an intention here for your practice. The breath helps everything, right? So allow the intention around our breathing to help you with whatever you're intending. And then release the hands. Okay, let's come on to our back. And as you stretch out and lengthen your body, we'll start as we usually do. So as you feel that reaching outward, take a moment to lie down and maybe stretch your arms overhead and feel some length and space, reaching one side and reaching the other side, and just enjoying what it feels like to open up the sides of your body. right, and then draw your knees into your chest and give yourself a little bit of a hug. Rocking, swaying from side to side. See how that feels. Let's take the knees and we'll circle, kind of rolling the knees one way, rolling them the other way. Just finding some ease across your sacrum. And we'll open up the knees away from the midline, bring them back in. Just enjoy some of that movement in your hips. And your right knee into your chest, left leg long on the ground. Let's open up our feet. Roll around in your toes, wiggle and sway, swish your feet around. Just feel any movement in your ankles that feels good. We're going to take that right knee and cross it over to the left and twist open, open your chest. Feel your breath. Relax your head down. And then come back up and grab your strap if you can. Take the strap into the right, around the right foot. Bend your left knee at first and put your left foot on the ground and feel the hamstring begin to open here. Let's flex and point our right foot. Breathing deeply. And then see what it feels like to maybe bend your knee and then press your foot up. A little bit of a half happy baby pose and then press that foot. So a little bit of mobility in there. We're going to come back to some hamstring stretches in a little while. This is kind of just a beginning one. And then let's go backwards through those poses. Left foot in the strap, right foot on the ground. Take a moment to flex and point your left toes. And root your femur bone down, just kind of assessing how are the hamstrings feeling today. And then we'll bend that knee and press the leg back up into the strap. Just getting a little half happy baby pose in there. All right. Let go of the strap. Bring the left knee into the chest. We'll cross it over to the right. Twist open here. Feel your chest expand and breathe. All right, bring your knee back into your chest. Give it a good squeeze. Roll around in your ankles. Wiggle through your toes. Breathing deeply. Okay. Now to just begin to wake up your core muscles a little bit, let's just do a little movement here. So left knee in, right knee in, left knee in, and right knee in, and just kind of turning on the fire a bit in your belly. How's your breathing? And stretch your limbs out wide, reaching to a star. And exhale, draw your knees in, head comes up. One more time, expanding into a starfish on the ground. Exhale, drawing your knees in. Put your feet on the ground, arms out to the side, and let's windshield wiper our knees left and right. And again, just waking up a little bit of the back, a little bit of your sides, getting those obliques to expand open a little bit. And then we'll roll to our side and come up to our hands and our knees. As you find all fours, let's enjoy some cat-cows here. So we're arching our back and we're rounding our spine, taking your time, moving through your vertebrae, feeling your breath. And then finding your way into any kind of movement. Maybe move like a fish through your spine, just warming up your spine however you want to do it. And then we'll drop back toward a child's pose. Walk the hands far out in front of you. Feel that reaching. Settle your hips back down toward your pelvis. A breath in and a breath out. We'll walk our hands over to one side, feeling that reaching through the body here. Relax the base of your skull. Pay close attention to opening up the ribs, opening up the side waist, not just the shoulder. And then we'll come back over to the other side and feel some reaching here. Feel extension and length and breath. All right, and then come back to center. Come up onto all fours. Let's wag our tail here. See what feels good. All right, finding our twist. Reaching one arm up in the air. Exhale, sliding that arm under. Gazing downward, letting your head rest. Breathing well. All right, and then we'll reach that arm back up in the air. Hand comes down onto the ground. Let's switch sides. Arm high. Drop that arm under. Relax your head and breathe. When you feel ready, lift that arm back to the sky. Hand comes down onto the ground. Before we lift to a dog pose, let's do some rib cage movement here. So put yourself inside a tube. Paint the inner rim of your tube with your rib cage. Broaden it out to the side, down to the ground, over to the other side, up. See if you can make sure all your ribs are feeling this, not just one little tiny section. Make sure you're breathing. And go the other direction. Never underestimate the power of loosening your body up to make you feel good. You know, if we get really rigid, this happens a lot during the day. If you spend a lot of time on a computer or focusing at work on a task, we can get shallow in our breath. We can get rigid in our ribs. So let's find that movement. And then when you're ready, we'll turn it into a dog pose. Stretching up, take some time to pedal your feet, dropping one heel, dropping the other, letting your calves open up, and the soles of your feet open up, remembering these fascial lines that connect all the way through our back body. So if we're wanting to keep our whole back line open so our pelvis can move freely for breath, it starts with our feet. I come to a statically held pose. It's dynamic, even if in its stillness. Find the ground, root to rise. Find your breath. And then we'll walk our feet forward and grab your blocks. Coming into Uttanasana, forward fold. Relax your head. Maybe a little bobble if it feels good. Inhale for a halfway lift, feeling that extension through your heart. Let's pedal your feet here. So dropping one hip back, dropping the other hip back, bending the opposite knee, just getting our hips to loosen up a little bit, feeling that movement across our SI joints, our low back, our hip flexors, our hamstrings. There's a lot of movement. And then relax and melt. Again, feel the folding here. Relax your head. To feel the full length of the back body, let's grab onto the base of our skull, drop it down with some weight on your hands, and draw your chin to your chest. Release your hands, halfway lift again. Open up the soles of the feet and then relax. Push through your feet, rising up, bringing the arms to the sky, feeling that extension. Open up here. Let's cactus, open the arms and spread your wings. Press your hands straight out to the sides. Push imaginary walls away. Drop your shoulders. Do a few circles here. So we're opening up those channels in our shoulders and in our neck, all the way through our hands. And then we'll swoop our arms high. Exhale, melting forward. Inhale for a halfway lift, opening up through your heart, melting to fold here. Back to a dog pose. Do you always take the same foot back? Try to take paths less traveled sometimes. Pedal again if you'd like. Feel your hamstrings starting to awaken and open a little bit more. Come forward into a plank. Push the ground away. Feel your shoulder blades drop down the back, full palms making contact with the ground. Feel the knitting of your ribs in. Even though your breath wants to travel outward, feel it float through your armpits and your rib cage, and then on the exhales, hug back towards center. Learning how to open is just as important as learning how to close the ribs. All right, let's release to the floor. Roll the shoulders. Notice if your shoulder blades get gluey and stuck. Find some movement, maybe one shoulder at a time, maybe forward, maybe backward. And then when you're ready, we'll lift to a cobra. Open up the front of the spine. Exhale, melting down. Draw your elbows back, shoulder blades down, rise up. Feel the front of your ribs, stretch open, breathe. Exhale and release. Bring your left knee high toward your armpit. Look at your knee. We're going to twist open, so move your props out of the way. Cross that arm underneath you and twist, roll open. Feel free to have a little bit of rocking in this if you'd like. Feel free to be still. The head is heavy. And just open up your breath across your chest. Getting those pec muscles, your collarbones freed up along with your spine. Okay, coming back to center. We'll switch sides, bring the other knee up, look at it, stretching through your back a moment, and then we'll cross the left arm underneath you to roll open to a twist. Breathing well, find your breath in, find your breath out. Does your body want to move a little bit? Does your body want to be still? Come back around. Come up. Notice how you're starting to get a little more free. Wag your tail some. Notice if your ribs and your torso are starting to loosen up. Okay. Let's do some pelvic circling while we're here, just like we did some rib cage rolling. Now we'll do it in our pelvis. So put your paintbrush on your tailbone and paint a circle on the wall behind you. So we're just noticing how much mobility we have in our pelvis. How's your breath? Change directions. And let's find another round of a cat and a cow. Invite your breath in. Curl the toes under and lift to a dog pose. Pedal your feet again and notice if your hamstrings are starting to open up a little bit.
Move your hips a little bit in this pose. Drop one heel down, lift the other hip up. Drop one heel down, bend the other knee, and drop that hip down. And see what feels nice. Ground yourself. Walk your feet forward. Come to Uttanasana. Inhale for a halfway lift, opening up through your spine. Melting again. Push through your feet, rising up, bringing the arms to the sky. And then tracing down through the center, pausing here and just noticing your body. The simplicity of just finding, loosening, mobilizing through our bodies. Doesn't it feel good? Don't you feel better now than you did before? Just a little more free, a little more embodied. Okay, let's open our hips just a little bit more. Take your right foot forward, left foot back, hands on your blocks. Come to your lunge, and we'll start to move like we do. Breathing here. Haven't spent much time yet focusing on the breath, but we're just preparing the body for breath. Start to invite the awareness of your breathing pattern. Lead with the breath. Ground yourself, push through your feet, rising up, crescent lunge. Let's open up through the rib cage. Breathing deep. Bring your hands back down. Turn sideways on your mat. A deep, wide squat. Bend into your hips. Open up your knees. Try to keep your hips in line with your knees. Maybe a little rocking from left to right. See what feels good. Letting the inner thighs open up. Feeling the broadness of your pelvis. And then turn back to the front. Find your lunge again. Walk your back foot forward. One more deep stretch for the hamstrings. Step your right foot back. Left foot's in front. All right, let's begin to straighten and bend the knee. Kind of waking up the hip flexors and hamstrings, feeling their mobilization. How's your breath? All right, ground into your lunge. Push down, rise up, crescent lunge, arms coming up. Maybe you want a broader, wider arms. Maybe you want to interlace your hands behind your back and open across your chest. Maybe cactus. What feels good? Experiment. All right, and then we're going to turn sideways the other way. This time, Pasrita. So wide legs, feet are turned straight or maybe slightly in. And we're going to come down. You can put your hands on the ground or on blocks, whatever feels supportive. You want to be able to lift and widen the sit bones. This is that anterior tilt to the pelvis that opens the pelvic floor well. Take a deep breath in here. As you come a little lower to the ground, lift your shoulders away from the ears. Engage your quads. Find your breath. Notice your belly, your pelvic floor, your rib cage as you breathe in and out. All right. Turn back to the front of your mat for a dog pose. Feeling that extension. Can you still lift and widen the sit bones and feel all the room for the pelvic floor to breathe? Okay, come forward into a plank. Feel the knitting of your ribs in. That stability for the diaphragm. All right, and come down to child's pose. Take your knees wide. And just find your way into some breath here. All right. Come to all fours and find your way to standing. We're going to do 2 exercises with the ball standing, and then we're going to get onto the ground for a while. Okay. So you need a wall. I don't love to do this against a brick wall, but I'll do it just to demonstrate. A flat wall that's not, bumpy is probably better. But we're going to take, maybe I'll just show you closer up. You're going to take the ball right at your neck, right? And we're going to keep the ball on the wall, and you're going to roll your neck so that the ball and the neck, you're going to kind of roll across all the front of your neck. You don't want too much pressure. You don't want to feel uncomfortable in any way in this, as far as, having trouble breathing, but you just want to stretch open your neck. So I like to put my hands on the wall and then roll my neck. And the ball, I like it to be a little bit more inflated for this than the other things we're gonna do. So you can put a little more air in there if you want. And just a little self massage across the front and side of your neck. Getting some fascial gripping on there. Breathing as you go. So we're turning our head from side to side. All right, now this next one, you can decide how inflated you want the ball to be by, taking your little pin and putting a little air in and taking a little air out. I like a little less air for this than I do with my neck. And we're gonna put our diaphragm, so you're gonna put it right at your diaphragm, right, where the bottom of your sternum is. That's where we're gonna be, and we're going to roll our base of our rib cage, the base of your sternum, your diaphragm on the wall. Okay, so put it there. You can lean in a little bit and then just roll. We're going to do this on the ground, but I want you to feel it on the wall first so a good amount of pressure to give to this. Though obviously when we're on the ground, it's going to be a lot more pressure of our body weight coming down. So if at all you feel uncomfortable, or like maybe you just ate and you don't want to do this right now, and that's fine. But if it's definitely easier on the wall than on the ground. So if you like it on the wall, when we get to that point, you can always stand back up and do what you're doing now. Okay, so let's come on to our back now. Okay, so we're going to spend the rest of our time down here on the ground. So for this first variation, we're going to just do a little bit of work with the pelvis. So we're going to take the ball not in its the more inflated, the harder it is. So, don't have a fully inflated ball for this. And we're going to put the ball under our pelvis. So the first thing to do is just to rest here. So feet on the ground. Notice that there's some subtlety to balance. The more inflated your ball, the more you'll have to work to balance. So it's different than doing a bridge on a block. Bridges on a block are amazing, really good for you, but this is just subtly a little bit more vibrant for the lower abdominals and the pelvic floor. So you can just kind of sense into that area of your body. Breathing deeply. All right, now you can stay right here if this feels good, where you're just kind of exploring awareness of your pelvis. This is a really great place to just hang out for a while. And if you're ready for a little more efforting, a little more balancing, and kind of feeling the engagement of the pelvic floor and the lower abdominals, we're going to lift one knee up and then lift the other knee up. Okay. And now notice when you are balancing on the ball with no feet, see how that feels. Okay. Now you have put your feet down for a minute while I discuss the choices. Either you can start with your feet on the ground and lift one knee up and put the foot down and then lift the other knee up nice and slow. We'll do this. So we'll go back and forth like that. That's the easier version. And easier sometimes is better because it gives you a little bit more the capacity to focus on what's happening when you don't have to balance so strongly. And then the little bit harder version is to come back with the knees over the pelvis and we'll tap one foot down and back up and tap the other foot down and back up. Okay, so don't let your ego make the choice. Just see what kind of exploration you want to do today. I'm going to start with my feet on the ground and lift my knee up and do the slightly easier version to give me just a little bit more time to sense my pelvic floor. All right, so whichever you're doing, we're tapping down and lifting back up. And so notice the rest of your body. Try not to overcompensate with your arms and your head. Finding breath, moving slowly. Just kind of sensing into the stability that's required. The slower you move, the more you're going to feel what's happening. Try not to rush through this so you can just sense the subtlety of your pelvic floor muscles and your deep low core. And then put your feet down, both feet down, rest for a moment. And then we'll get that block out of there and come down onto the ground. All right, so feel how solid the ground is. Okay, you've got a lot of support underneath you. We're just going to do some gentle pelvic tilting to kind of make us aware of how our diaphragm and our pelvic floor work together. So on your in-breath, broaden your diaphragm out, broaden your pelvic floor out, and anterior tilt the pelvis. That means dip the tailbone down and the top of the sacrum moves up, that nutation of the sacrum, wide sit bones. You might even find that your knees want to come apart. And then as you exhale, top of sacrum comes down, tail comes up, sit bones come toward each other, knit your ribs in. Your knees might come toward each other. All right, and we're just going back and forth. And again, this is not super effortful. We're trying to find the synchronicity of engagement, not muscular strength. So notice the synchronicity of engagement on the exhales as your ribs knit in and down, as your tail lifts up and you come into that posterior tilt and the sit bones move toward each other. And as your in-breath comes, wide ribs, broaden your diaphragm, sit bones wide, knees wide, tail dips, sacrum lifts, top of sacrum. So that nutation and counter nutation of the sacrum works in conjunction with the anterior and posterior tilting of the pelvis. The tilting of the pelvis works with the movement of the diaphragm. So see if you can just synchronize those patterns. Slow as you go. Inhale, wide ribs, wide belly, wide sit bones, anterior tilt of the pelvis, nutation of the sacrum.
Exhale, knit ribs in, pubic bone to navel, tail up, sit bones knit. Just kind of find the pattern for yourself. Sometimes my arms get in the picture without me even knowing it, where I start to kind of close my arms in on my exhale and I start to open my arms up. And that's fine. Just kind of let your body do its thing. Maybe your chin wants to move with the action. Maybe your eyes want to move with the action. See if you can sense the wholeness of your body coming into that open star and that closed star. Okay, so there's nothing that every part of you can receive this. There's nothing in your body that has to stay still in this action. Your feet can move, your head can move, your hands, everything can join in the party of expansion and condensement. Make sure your breath is moving. That's the primary thing you're moving, is the breath. It's the leader of what your body is just opening for the breath. Everything's for the breath. Maybe it wants to look a different way. Maybe you want to stretch a little bit and condense a little bit. Maybe you want to turn this into more, starfish kind of vibes where you're moving your body in expansion on your in breath and condensement on your out breath. Maybe you want to come onto your back as you open up and roll to your side and pull your knees in when you breathe out. Try to think less and let your whole body receive the movement of the breath. Authentic movement here. There's nothing prescribed. What would happen if you just let your body and breath do what it wants? And when you feel ready, you could do this for 2 hours if you want to. When you're ready to come a little closer towards stillness, you can change that, slow that, and shrink that movement down to a resting on your back pose. Now, as you become more still in a Shavasana-like posture, see if you can notice what's happening on the inside. Can you sense the expansion of the in-breath in your pelvic floor, in your diaphragm, in the impulses of your body energy? Can you feel what changes in shape and energetics on the exhale? Even something as simple as the rocking of your arm bones or the rocking of your leg bones or the way your hands feel a slight desire to open or close. Pay attention to any subtle impulse that the in breath gives you and that the out breath gives you. And now we're going to take this breath more viscerally. So we're going to take the ball and we're going to come onto our side. We'll do 2 positions. I think you've all done this. We've done it with 3 positions before. Today we're going to do smack in the middle of the rib cage and smack in the middle of the side waist. And that's just in the interest of time because we only have an hour. We don't have 3. But if you had 3, you can play with this for a long time. I like a block under my head for my pillow. Maybe you do too. Maybe you like to rest on your arm. The ball, choose how much inflating or deflating you'd like. Bend your knees And we'll start with a little rocking back and forth, kind of like we did with our neck and our sternum on the wall. Roll on that block a little bit and just enjoy some rib cage massage. Your breath is tuned in from what we just did, so stay with it. And then find neutral. Bring your hand onto your rib cage. A big breath in. Hold. And then a nice long exhale. Again, an inhale. A hold. And an exhale. And we'll move the ball down to our side waist. And again, we'll just have a little moment to roll. This is so good to massage our obliques and our quadratus lumborum and our lats. And we can even touch into all the visceral organs. And then pause, hand on your waist. Take a deep breath in. Hold. And then a long breath out. One more time. In breath. While you hold, stiffen your core a bit. Press into that ball. And then relax that and melt the ball into your body on that nice long exhale. All right, and we're going to come out of there. And we'll move. Ooh, this twist feels good. If you want a little twist, you can have a little twist before moving sides. And then when you're ready, we'll take our left rib cage on the ball. Take any support that you need for your head. And bend your knees, and we'll start with just a little rolling on that ball. Back and forth, just feeling a little, and notice where the ball is. Kind of make sure you're in your ribs in a good place. Enjoy a little massaging here. You got a lot of musculature in here, your lats, your serratus, your intercostals. You can even get into a little bit of your rotator cuff, depending on where you are. And then pause here, hand on your ribs. Stack your ribs, take a deep breath in. Hold. And then a long exhale out. When you exhale, melt that ball into you. Another breath in. Hold. And then a long breath out. Let the ball fall into you. And then we'll move the ball into our side waist. And you know what you need, maybe a little more or less inflation of the ball might feel good. Start with a little rocking. Great way to kind of massage your obliques, your transverse abdominis, your lats, your quadratus lumborum. So much in here. Let's just enjoy. And then we'll pause. Hold your side waist, a deep breath in. Hold, press into the ball a little bit, stiffen through your abdomen. And then relax. Melt the ball, let your body receive the ball. One more time, a deep breath in. Hold, stiffen. And then a breath out. Melt into the ball. I will come on up if you want that same twist. And then we'll come last thing with the ball, we'll put the ball under our sternum. This is where you could go back onto the wall if you'd like. It's a little more pressure here. Hands underneath your head. And maybe just a little bit of rocking left and right. And experiment, having the ball sometimes too low or too high. You just kind of experiment with what feels best for you. And then stillness for a couple of breaths. Sometimes some pressure against our sternum and ribs can really teach us the art of expansion. Come up off that ball. Come onto all fours. A little bit of movement in your spine. Let your breath, let your body sound itself out if it wants. Any which way you want to move. Relax, relax, relax. Hey, child's pose if you want, or let's find our way. It's time for Shavasana. So you might need a little something after all that rib cage work. You might need knees to chest, or a little twisting, or a little happy baby, or a child's pose, or you might want to put your feet up on something for Shavasana instead of laying flat. Just kind of experiment. Now notice how fast time went by. We could have done triple the amount of time in everything we did. So if you have time and you're encouraged by what breath work does for you, or you need it, if you get tight in your ribs or you have trouble with diaphragmatic movement, take your time doing all the things we did today. Experiment, just be in your body a while and roll around on the ground and experiment with your breath. So as you come to Shavasana, if you're at all chilled, make sure you get warm and comfy. And then if you can, let's return just subtly to that inner feeling of movement of breath. Coordinating the ribs, the belly, the pelvis, and its mobility for inhale and exhale. Invite the breath into your body and invite it to go. See if you can remain unattached. Don't grab at the breath. See what it feels like to be just the recipient and where you can easily give and receive as easily as you can let go. Melt into the ground.
Yeah, let's begin to deepen our breathing. Notice if you feel relaxed, if you have gotten a little bit of that parasympathetic nervous system elevation that breath work offers. Okay. Take your time coming onto your side. And as you feel ready, we'll come up to a comfortable seat. And just take a moment as you get there to notice if your breath is just naturally a little more broad and wide and expansive and deep. If you've had a little releasing of some tension in your diaphragm. If your pelvic floor is a little more accessible to you. If you're a little less reliant on the accessory muscles of breathing in your shoulders and neck. If your nervous system is a little calmer. And if any of these responses are happening, let's count our blessings, right? Let's bring our hands together and offer the gifts of your practice, whatever energy that is good and positive that you've developed, just offer this to another. Remember, our good, healthy breathing is one of the greatest gifts we can give to those who we are in presence with. Namaste. Thank you, everyone.